Oh, yeah, protein shake. Get all that creamy goodness. Masturbation. Many of us started doing it before we even knew what to call it. Scientists have even shown that babies masturbate because they like the feeling of their genitals. I know for myself, I started years before I could actually ejaculate or was ready for procreation. Pretty much everybody does it, has done it, enjoys doing it. So why is it still something that's so taboo? Why is it something we don't talk about? Why is it considered something shameful? Why is it sometimes considered something harmful for your sexual life or connecting with others? So today we're going to talk about all the good that comes from that good time with yourself, by yourself, for yourself, a little self-loving. So hey, if we haven't met before, my name is Kay. I am an ecstatic spirituality coach. I have written a self-help book on learning to accept your full, authentic, vibrant self, and a fantasy novel about coming to own your identity. I host this YouTube channel, Ecstatic Self, where we explore the intersection of spirituality, sex and sexuality, maleness, queerness, authenticity, and bring it all together. So a few weeks ago, I had a friend visiting me from out of the country, and he's somebody who does a lot of really great work with men around sex and sexuality and mindfulness, and I absolutely love this guy. He's fantastic. And I was interviewing him, and during the interview, one of the questions I posed to him is, what does the role of self-pleasure have in your life? And he looked at me, confused, and said, well, I have a boyfriend, so why would I masturbate? My face did this. Interesting. He went on to say, for me, masturbation is a replacement for sex when you can't have sex. And I frankly was a little bit flabbergasted by that. And now, granted, everybody's connection to sex and sexuality is different. What people want from touch, what people want from sexual connection varies from the age we're at to where we are in our life and from person to person. But for me, masturbation has been, and presumably always will be, something that is deeply fulfilling, deeply personal, and something that I love to do, even if I'm having regular sexual interactions with my husband or just in general. Because for me, masturbation is sacred time. It's a time where I energetically get to connect with myself, where I get to refuel my energetic tanks, that I feel like I become more vibrant, more alive, more in tune with my body. If you've watched some of the other videos I've posted on the topic of masturbation, you know that I often view it as a meditation, as a spiritual exercise. I view it as something necessary for my well-being. And I've had conversations with my husband telling him like, hey, I need it to be okay that I have time where I can go jack off on my own and it not be seen as me taking time away from you or withholding something from you, but this is just something really important for me. And there are plenty of times where my husband will walk into a room and laugh and say, were you just masturbating? And I was like, yes, I was. You're welcome to come join me if you'd like. But this idea of sexual connection with oneself as being merely a replacement for actual intercourse, or as being something preparatory for intercourse, as a way to train yourself to be a better lover for others, I think really misses the point. Masturbation in and of itself is a beautiful experience. Now, when I masturbate, I generally try to let it be an experience of my body and becoming more aware of what's going on inside and the flow and feeling the friction and feeling the intensity and feeling the pleasure in it. I do sometimes, yes, engage with erotic imagery while exploring self-touch, but not often. And while I admire the people who can get into that gooner headspace and just, like lose themselves and just get into that experience by binging on porn, for me, that experience of pornographic consumption ends up taking me into an externalized experience. It takes me out of my body and into this fantasy world. And that can be lovely, and that can be an experience that, if that's what you're intentionally seeking out and you feel like that's making you happier and healthier and better, by all means explore it. But for me, that's generally not an experience that I like. I started masturbating when I was very young. I want to say like 6 or 7 years old. And it was something that was really fulfilling for me. But it wasn't ever for me personally, and I know I'm different, that some people won't relate to this, but for me, I never fantasized about other people. I never imagined what it would be like to touch somebody else while I was touching myself. And even still, as an adult who's now been masturbating for presumably about 6/7 of his lifespan, it's still not something I do. I do not fantasize about having sex with somebody else when I'm masturbating. And I do know that's uncommon. I know that is a very normal, healthy thing for people to do, but for me, it's just something that I don't. I don't get turned on by imagining sex with someone else. And I think a big part of that was some of the challenge I had with coming out, because I didn't have a vibrant sex life in my head with other people. And because I was so scared of other people because I'd been so mocked and so shamed for being who I was and made to feel so different and unwanted as a teenager, as a child, growing up in all the spaces I went into, from bullying and scapegoating. I didn't think anybody would want to engage with me. I shut down the prospect of what would it be like for someone to touch me or someone to want me or for me to feel that for them, because it wasn't possible. I was told I was unlovable. I was told I was not beautiful. I was told I was, slime under their shoe and we're better off dead. Those were things I heard on a regular basis. So maybe if I had been more well-liked, maybe if I had more friends and felt more confident in my body, maybe I would have allowed myself to explore those things. But then again, maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe I would have also been very just in the experience of myself. I do think it's entirely possible that part of the reason I am so, we'll call it solo sexual oriented, although I do enjoy sex with other people sometimes, is that for me it has always been a meditative experience. It has always been an energetically transportive experience. I become more aware of my breath, I become more aware of my skin, I become more aware of the sensations within me. And as an adult exploring more sexual, spiritual work, tantric work, realizing that these are ancient practices that have gone back thousands of years of using mindful touch to create altered states of awareness. But for me, growing up, masturbation wasn't something safe to do. I grew up in a household where I wasn't allowed to even close my bedroom door. I wasn't given permission, if I went and spent too much time in the bathroom alone, and my parents would come knock on the door and say, "What's going on in there? What are you doing?" Which in hindsight is really strange. It's like, girl, can't you just give your child a little privacy from time to time to let them explore themselves? Like, really, what do you think he's doing? He's not shooting up heroin in the bathroom. Just let him be. And then even when I moved out and went to college, there still was a sense of shame around masturbation. It still felt like something dirty and sinful and wrong. I don't know about you, but I grew up hearing those messages that, to spill your seed was wrong according to the Bible or the church. That you're supposed to be saving yourself from marriage and sexual experiences with your spouse. There for me was a lot of programming around that. And then as an adult, getting into a relationship where your partner obviously wants your sexual energy, where they want your attention, or it can feel selfish, it can feel wrong to say, well, who am I to take away my sexual time from my partner so I can have this experience with myself? But for many people, that's something that we really do need to do. Over the last few months, I discovered that some of my more erotic content that I posted has become really admired in the baiter community, which is not something I had ever really heard of or identified with. But because a lot of my erotic content is autosexual, it is with myself, there isn't a ton with other people, I guess I had kind of become admired by them. And so I started to dive into it, and seeing all of these men, I'm sure there's women, but I've just been interacting with the men, who identify as solosexual, who identify as masturbation being one of their primary sources of enjoyment, even those who are happily married, or maybe not happily married, but are married, that for them, self-touch is a deep font of enjoyment. It was the first time I had ever heard people give themselves permission to say, I am in love with my body, I'm enamored with the sensations it gives me, and I find more pleasure interacting with myself than I sometimes do with other people. I had never heard that articulated before, and I had no idea that there was such a vast community of people who identified as such. And as I started to explore it more, it started to feel a little bit like a type of homecoming for me, to feel like I didn't realize how I had been judging myself, how I had not been giving myself permission to embrace the fact that, I love masturbation. It's something that brings me tremendous joy. There have been more than a handful of times, I'd say actually probably the majority of times I've had sex with someone else, I've left the experience saying, God, I would have enjoyed that more on my own. They didn't touch me as well as I could. Their energy was weird. It felt awkward. I couldn't get out of my head. There's a lot of times where I would prefer to be with myself than be with someone else. And that runs so counter to the narrative that society tells us, because especially as men, we're supposed to be out there sharing our seed, procreating, getting as many notches in our belt as possible. A guy who has an impressive list of sexual partners, both in quantity and quality, that they're societally deemed very attractive, whether their partners are men or women, doesn't matter. If they have a lot of partners who are attractive, they are given societal value. They're told that they're studs, they're told that they're sexy, they're told that they have worth. And so to balk at that, to go against that system and say, not only am I'm not going to have sexual partners, I'm just going to enjoy the sexual partner with myself, that's a bit of a quandary. It really does go against the system we're taught of our value as men. There was an article I was reading about locker room culture. and how well-endowed men on the team are given higher status and prized by their peers, but only if they are regularly using their penis. That if they are out there having a lot of sex and talking about it, they're given higher esteem for their endowment. But even if they have a really big dick, but they're not out there having sex, that value is taken back. They're not viewed as being these studs anymore. So it's not even what kind of body you have, it's who are you fucking with it. I think there's something tremendously liberating by saying I have a fabulous connection with myself and I so enjoy it. Because our bodies are here to give us pleasure. Our bodies are here for our enjoyment. They are these gifts that we get to wander around the world in and interact with people with and to use how we want. So if we want to delight in our own experiences and enjoy our bodies on their own, then we should, because masturbation is wonderful. Self-touch is wonderful. Like, I love giving myself even just a massage that isn't sexual, but just feeling myself and being in myself. And yeah, sure, I do love a massage from somebody else. That can be better, right? Like, sex with another person can be better for me than masturbation, but a lot of times it's not. A lot of the times sex is disappointing. And I try to get clearer and clearer about why is it disappointing? How could I make my sexual experiences better? How could I choose partners more carefully? How could I approach things differently? And so I optimize my experience, but a lot of time it is disappointing. But you know what doesn't disappoint me? My hands. My hands generally do not disappoint me. And so no matter how you identify, wherever you fall on the sexual spectrums, if you enjoy self-loving time, relish it, enjoy it. And if masturbation is something that you just don't get and it doesn't speak to you and you'd rather go have sex, mazel tov, enjoy. That's your path. But for me personally, I want to let go of the shame around being a proud masturbator, about saying, I love my body, I love my penis, I love the joy he brings me, and I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm not going to let it be something shameful. But I'm going to say, masturbation is good for me, masturbation is a joy, and it's something I want to do more of. This journey of letting go of judgment, of overcoming shame, of accepting ourselves thoroughly, no matter what it is the important spiritual work we all need to do. Because one of the best gifts we can give the world is the most authentic, vibrant, open, real version of ourselves. To stop pretending to be somebody we're not. To stop pouring ourselves into the molds that society has created. And instead of trying to be like everyone else, just be enthusiastically ourselves. Because when we can do that, that's when our magic will appear. That's when what makes us different will rise to the top and will be something of value. Because it will be something other people haven't seen before. It'll be something that we haven't heard before. It'll be a new story, a new vantage, and wisdom lies there. Thank you for taking a few minutes of your time with me today. If you found this beneficial, please drop a comment below, share this with somebody who think you will like it, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, pass it on, whatever you would like to do. I know if you ever like to work one-on-one with me on your own personal coaching and development, feel free to reach out to me directly through my email address or through my website, ecstaticself.com. And you can always follow me on any of the other social media platforms. Instagram, Twitter, OnlyFans, Patreon, whatever you'd like. Thank you so much for your time today. Many blessings to you.